Hi, everyone. My name is Angie Vishyanan. Welcome to the DAYL 1L Success Seminar. We are super excited to be talking to you all today. Our organization has been hosting this event for the last 3 years, and we've found that it's a really great way for law students who are interested in working in Dallas and getting to know Dallas attorneys to connect with folks in DAYL and start making some connections and get some insider information about what to do when you're in law school and when you're after you've graduated law school and when you're practicing. So I would love to just give you a quick rundown of how this event is going to go, and then we'll dive right in. So we're going to have 2 panels today. Our first panel is going to be about succeeding in law school. That panel will be about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have a quick Q&A at the end of it. Then we will put everybody in breakout sessions for 25 minutes. We're going to do 2 rounds of breakouts, so you're going to get to meet somebody new today. And during those breakouts, since we had so many registrants, most likely you'll be paired with another student, but you may be paired with one of the panelists as well. So we want you to get to know some folks and start making some connections. So during the breakout rooms, we'll give you some ideas of what to say in your introductions and some kind of questions to ask each other. And then we'll have our second panel, which is all about how to succeed after law school. And then we'll do another 2 rounds of breakout rooms after that. So then after that, all of us will return back into the main room and we'll say a few closing remarks and we'll let you go. So I am very excited to introduce to you our first panel today. Our moderator is going to be Adil Sheikh. He is a litigation associate at Fish and Richardson, and he graduated from the University of Washington School of Law, and he has a master's and a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Texas at Dallas. So Adil, I will let you introduce our other panelists, so you're welcome to take it away.
Sure, great. I'll actually let them panelists introduce themselves, but I'll just briefly say each of their names. I'm also going to ask you all a quick question you can respond to as you're introducing yourself. So I was thinking y'all could just give the students maybe, I'll phrase it in a couple different ways, either advice that you were given prior to your first day in school at the 1L that really helped you in your first year of school, first year of law school. Or I guess we could also think about it as what advice did you wish you had after you finish your 1L and you're like, crap, I wish that someone had told me X. And so that's the question I'll have for you, and we'll start. So we'll go in this order. We have Taylor Jenkins, and we have Artishila Wise. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. And Jessica Page. So Taylor, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Jenkins. I am a Dallas native. I graduated from UT Austin in 2019 with my bachelor's in business administration. And I am a 2L at the University of North Texas, Dallas College of Law, and I am a Sarah T. Hughes Scholar. Something I wish I would have known prior to 1L, that's a really tough question. Or I'll go with something someone told me. This is a time where you really have to learn how to prioritize your studies and find a good balance. It's difficult at first, but really use those first 2 to 3 weeks to have like trial and error, try out things with classes as far as studying, but you don't have to have it figured out in the first week of school. I think that's something a lot of 1Ls think coming in. I have to have it figured out. I have to be outlining and studying for 30 hours a week, which is kind of true, but finding your balance will come with trial and error. So give yourself some grace during the first couple weeks of school.
Hi, I am Artishila Wise. I am a recent graduate from the University of North Texas College at Dallas College of Law. I was involved with DAYL from my first year all the way up until currently. I was the law student liaison for the Board of Representatives. I am originally from Iowa, so it was important for me to get knowledge about Dallas and the lawyers here. So that's why I've been a very big part of DAYL. Something that I wish I would have known going into 1L is that imposter syndrome does not stop. So from the day that you get into class until you are sitting for the bar exam, it is something that is going to continuously be there for you. It's okay. Every single person that you are sitting next to and in class with and talking to feels the exact same way. And it's important to make sure that you're prioritizing your mental health and seeking out, like our law school, we're fortunate enough to have a therapist on campus. So seeking out some of those resources to make sure you are checking in with yourself, because 1L is a big journey and a learning curve for a lot of you. And so you want to make sure that you have some resources to help you process some of that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Page. I am a 4E, fourth year evening student at UNT Dallas College of Law. I have my master's degree in social work from UTA Arlington, and I am currently the chair of the region for the Southwest Black Law Student Association. One thing that I wish someone would have told me before I started my 1L year is probably just forget everything that you think you know. We all feel like, we have our backgrounds and we have a certain level of knowledge about the law or school or education. It's nothing like anything you've ever experienced. So you just have to be open to learning everything you can about the process, not even necessarily about the law. Just be open to learn about what works for other people and be able to translate that into what will work for you.
Perfect. That's awesome, guys. Y'all. So I'm going to dive right into tangentially, just actually exactly related to what y'all were talking about. I'll start with this first question, and you guys can jump in. Whoever would like to speak, you can go in whatever order. We're going to talk about study strategies. So what study strategies work best for you, or what did you learn that worked for you as you were navigating your first year?
I can go, since I feel like I was probably the last person recently studying. I think that you need to develop a schedule and a routine. So as Taylor stated, make sure you test out things from these first couple of weeks, but you want to make sure you get into a full schedule. So like me, I am a daytime studier. After like 7 p.m., my brain is no longer in any type of law school form. It wants to watch like Real Housewives and do anything else besides law school. So prioritizing my mornings and my afternoons and my early afternoons was really important for me to make sure that I am reading, reviewing any outlines, looking at any supplements. I'm big on reaching out. Well, I was big on reaching out to my professors. So sending any emails of any questions that I needed more information on, or stopping in to see their office hours was really important for me. And making sure that I stayed up to date on trying to outline in ways that worked for me, because that if you were an undergrad and there was a certain way that you memorized material or you understood material, use those exact same study skills. Don't try to change it because you're seeing someone doing it a different way. I'm a diagrams person, so I make diagrams still to this day. And for some people that doesn't work, but your study skills that got you through undergrad, use those, but make sure that you're tailoring it to what law school is going to give you in the material.
I will echo what Artishula said, and just adding that you have to find kind of what I was saying earlier, your niche, right? So for instance, you have your book, you have the supplement materials, you have maybe online videos, you have cases that you have to read. And so you have to decide, what order am I going to do these things in? For me, sometimes I have to read an online supplement and then go read an entire case. And that helps me get a better understanding of, from the beginning of what that case may be, an overview. And then I'll come back and look at other supplements. So you have to figure out what order works for you, how your brain will process it. And then once you get it, it might take a while, because I think it took me like a year to figure that out, then repeat it. Just like Artisha said, repeat and repeat and repeat. Once you figure out that is what works for you and that's what gets you the grades, repeat.
I would also echo what both of them have said. Also, when you find your flow in one class, that may not work for the next class. So you might have to reinvent the wheel or adapt to the different types of course material. But additionally, study groups. A lot of people will start forming study groups and want you to come. You really have to know yourself and be able to determine whether a study group works for me or do I need to self-study. Most times what I learned was I needed to know the material for myself before even attempting to study in a group format. So learn those things, go to the study group, see what they're doing, but don't try to, mimic what they're doing, thinking, oh, it worked for them, it'll work for me too. You definitely have to find what works for you. And you may be able to offer that advice to someone else in the study group to help them learn the material. So the study group should be more of a review session other than like you learning the material for the first time in the study group, because it may work for you, but for me, I learned that I needed to know the material before because study groups can get a little more social in some aspects than an actual study group. So definitely play out with those things and you'll find your flow for sure.
Yeah, my best friends, Taylor, in my study group, but it's not because we were studying hard. It's because we were laughing hard. So I had to study on my own. So just know that about yourself.
Yeah, so well, I'll start with Taylor since you brought this up. Did that mean you were you were not going to study groups at all, or you were just going to get this before tests? What did that mean for you?
So I did also have a study group with friends, and I realized I wasn't able to focus in a group environment where they like to talk concepts out. And if I didn't have it myself, like I hadn't grasped the material, I couldn't do them talking about it out loud because then I would get confused or what I understood the material to say, they may not have, and then we would have confusion. So I learned that I had to take a step back, really take time with the material before ever like trying to go over concepts out loud, working them out on a whiteboard, things like that. I need to read the material more than talking it out, but talking worked for them. So I would separate myself from the study group and let them use the study room and then rejoin the group when I felt comfortable doing so.
Jessica and Artichola, did you guys use study groups, or what was your strategy as far as study groups?
So I used study groups closer to like at UNT, they have midterms and finals. So when it was getting closer into those types of ordeals, then I would use a study group because I am ADHD, I am super extroverted, and I love seeing my people. So if I'm with them, I'm going to want to talk, chat, and do everything else besides study. I had one friend that I studied, like if it was just like a week to week thing, I would review things with her because we kind of thought the same, looked at things the same. But when it came down to like really big group studying, I saved that until midterms or finals because once I reviewed the concepts and understood, I want to make sure that I wasn't telling them something incorrectly. And then that if there was like a little bit of a debate, then that we could just reach out to that professor together and get clarification on that.
And see, I stopped using study groups altogether because I'm a social worker, right? So we start talking about kids and friend and life and problems. But what I did do is I know my classmates, right? And so you can tell in class or outside of class when somebody really has a concept that they grasp really well. And so I would just go to that person. I mean, you have to get phone numbers, emails, contact for your classmates. But I would just go to that person and be like, hey, I see that you are understanding this First Amendment issue. What do you think about it? Or, what's your understanding of it? So I would go into individuals and talk about certain concepts that I wasn't grasping well, but not in a whole group because it didn't work for me. Yeah, we had to schedule outside time.
And kind of generally for all y'all, I think Jessica mentioned a few different resources like supplements, and I'm sure everybody knows about them, but in general, what were resources, be it people, be it outlining, be it supplements, or some other maybe practice test? What was a resource outside of just your reading that you use that you think was really beneficial for just being successful?
So I used our Office of Academic Success heavily my first year. I still credit Professor Weston Scow for being the reason why when I went into the bar and I did MEEs and I knew my structuring and my sentencing was correct, was because I worked with her about every single essay for any course that I've done. I went to her and she gave me bar exam examples. She gave me West Academic Study Aids, which was like a free subscription that our law school had. There's also Quimby, but I personally didn't use Quimby a lot because I briefed every single case that we did in law school. So when people ask for my notes, they know they're going to get a full semester's worth of case briefs for a certain case or for a certain class. So I reached out to them. I looked at Quimby when I really like property. I still have no idea what property truly is. I would look at them for property cases and look and see like, okay, well, what does this case really mean if I didn't understand it? But if you guys, your Office of Academic Success, go to them. They are such a big bridge of knowledge and information. Some of them have taken the bar exam multiple times. So if you know professors are using bar exam essays or questions, they have those resources, they have that knowledge, and they can give you guys so many different things. And I love them and appreciated them so much.
You can go. Go ahead, Jessica. Okay. I used my professors. A lot of them provided a lot of multiple choice questions. I would review. We took quizzes weekly, so I would use those as study aids. Supplements as well for certain classes. One supplement may work and one may not. So for like civil procedure, Glennon's worked for me. Those multiple choice questions and the explanations really help supplement our textbook. But for other classes like properties, the Glennon kind of help, but it really depends on your professor because they may provide you with extra material that they're looking for, but the supplement may address issues that your professor is not touching. So you don't want to confuse yourself. So I really suggest asking your professor which supplements they recommend, because my contracts professor recommended no supplement. He provided the multiple choice questions for us to practice with, and his textbook, he wrote our textbook. So that was the book we needed to rely on. And any supplement that he didn't write wasn't going to help us with his class because he was looking for certain material. So I would definitely say first ask your professor and then see what works for you, and try out Glennon's and E&E's, which are explanations and examples. And just Q&As are really good too for different, you just have to figure out which course they'll work for. But those are three of the primary supplements that I use.
And I use all those same ones. My only two additives is don't invest too much money in a certain supplement or publisher until you know that it's going to work for you. Because I think first semester, I got all these like 2-pager front and back for all the 1L courses, and I ain't use any of it. Like it wasn't even relevant to me once I started the course. So definitely don't invest too much in something that you don't know is going to work for you yet. And then with the professors, know the professor and their style of teaching. Like Taylor said, some of them, they are your biggest resource. You don't need anything else. They will give you everything you need. And then some classes, I would still go on maybe on Quimby at the end of the semester before finals and review the whole course on Quimby after I've taking the course in class. So you just have to understand which resource you're going to use. And then those multiple choice questions on Quimby, especially for your 1L courses, are very helpful. They help you review a lot of things and test your knowledge and help you decide if you know what you're talking about or not.
Cool. I'm going to go kind of back to, I guess I'll ask you more generally, best practices or what you did for, I think the first thing people get overwhelmed with is the amount of reading and thinking about outlining. So what are your best practices, or how did you get through all of the reading you were assigned, or were you doing all the reading? Were you doing all outlining? talk a little bit about that.
So if you guys can see in the background here, I have a nice calendar and like a cork board and then like another dry erase board. And then I also have my iPad. I kept myself extremely organized because I didn't want to miss a reading. A lot of my classmates in my class, they weren't the most outgoing type. So sometimes it would just be awkward when the professor wants to call on someone they didn't know the information. So I just made sure I stayed very up to date on the material, just because if we are in that situation or if I did get called on because of Socratic, I did not want to be embarrassed. I wanted to make sure I knew the cases and knew the information. And it was important to stay up on top of it with, and one of my favorite professors, Professor Owsley, he'll call on you. But if he can tell that you're reading from like Quimby or from something that is not your own words, he would come for you. And it just was really cringy. And so watching those experiences with other people, that motivated me. And that's just me as a person. It motivated me to make sure that I read the material. I stayed on top of everything. Something about crossing something off a to-do list for me is just everything. It was like my little happy joy that I could get. So I think schools have started right now. I'm not sure. I started reading like right before the classes started and try to keep myself up to date and on pace. Those cases are extremely dense in some senses of the way. So if you have a Black's Law dictionary, you see a word that you do not understand, stop, look up that word, write it down so you can remember it for the next time, and make sure you're really grasping that material and understanding that, because that's going to help you in the long term when it comes to your test. But stay on top of your reading. If you have a question, I used to just like jot down questions that I had, email them to the professor or talk to the professor about it afterwards, just so I can make sure that I'm grasping that knowledge and material. And then also just staying on top of my organization for it too.
I keep up with, I look at my syllabi at the beginning of the semester, and I have my paper calendar where I keep a lot of things, but I also put what I need to read on my digital calendar every week. So at the beginning of the semester, my Outlook calendar is full of what the professor said we're going to address for that week. I have a full-time job. And so Friday through Sunday are my days. If it doesn't get done, if it doesn't get read in, it's probably not going to happen, right? So I have to even further map out my weekends about what am I going to address this weekend. And at first, at the beginning of the semester, I'm reading everything, right? Just to be honest, because I don't know the professors. I don't know what's going to happen. After those first 2 weeks, I understand who, has a Socratic method, who's just going to sit and talk for an hour and a half, or what to expect out of class, because then I need to know how prepared I need to be. And then when it comes to outlining, I'm kind of a self-paced person. And so, especially before midterms, before finals, I'm putting my outline together, and that's how I study. Like I test myself, I put my outline together. So it's a method, but definitely use your calendars. My calendar tells me what my professor is going to talk about every week.
I would agree. Read everything. I write it down in my calendar as well. And I also make a to-do list for each day, because that'll keep me I'm kind of like Artisha in wanting to check things off a to-do list. And that just helps me feel accomplished for the day, because it gets overwhelming. And you see this long list of things you have to do, but being able to say, I did this, is a sense of accomplishment. I agree with Jessica at getting to know your professors. So that first 2 weeks, definitely read all the assigned reading. But as you continue to read, you will learn what pieces of the cases your professors will focus on. Some of them want to know the facts and the procedural history. Some of them don't care about the procedural history. So getting to know what your professor is looking for, then you can kind of tailor which parts of the casebook you really need to focus on and which ones may or may not come up, but could be a supplement when you're studying later. As far as outlining, I typically outline maybe after 2 weeks of material and try to keep it up at the end of the week. So I use like Fridays and Saturdays to add to my outline, take things out that may not be relevant anymore as we make things more of a broad issue instead of as detailed. My outlines start off very detailed, but at the end, they're much less detailed, more just overall themes that we learn throughout the semester. And that's a good way, like Jessica said, to quiz yourself as you get closer to midterms and finals. And that's the time also where you can compare outlines with classmates to study. And that's when study groups can come in. But definitely read all of the case law. I use Quimby as a supplement if a case was not making sense to me. Quimby videos were my go-to. And I would be a little hurt if a case did not have a Quimby video. And some of your professors know which cases do not have videos and they'll use that. But they do usually still have a brief, and reading that can help as well. But do not rely on that for a cold call. Some of my classmates did that to their own demise, as Artisha said. Professors know when you're reading from Quimby. They actually look at it sometimes to know what's on there, and they're not looking for those answers because they know you probably did not read. So be careful when using Quimby. That's the advice.
To address Lindsay's question in the chat, it wasn't real. So you'll learn your professors, right? And you're going to learn. I have an example I want to use, but I should not. Some of my professors follow their syllabus to the T. They don't care if time is running out. You're going to touch every single piece of material on that syllabus. Then you have your others who live in a faraway space and who want to go through every single hypothetical that your classmates are going to pose, because they're going to pose the most, just prepare yourselves. They're going to propose themselves like the most outlandish hypotheticals on the face of the planet. And you're going to be sitting there just like, can we get through these material? So some may drift from it and they're like, oh, well, we're not going to cover X, Y, and Z. So you can just learn to like, okay, we're going to cut that out. That's not going to be a thing. And you're going to see that more so towards the end of the semester. So I know one course, there was a whole big part of a bar exam portion that we didn't touch because my professor just lived up here and wanted to run through every single hypothetical. And I just was like, well, we'll just save that for summer 2022. And that's what we did, because you'll learn that some just really love a hypothetical and love to run through all scenarios.
So we'll kind of ask a couple more questions before we transition. I'm gonna jump to, so what did you all find the most challenging about law school? And also, if you have thoughts on it, what did you do to kind of overcome that challenge, or was it just something you're like, this is just a thing?
I'll start. My most challenging piece was writing. Of course, I have like a master's degree, right? So I know something, right? And I went to law school, and basically my grades the first semester showed me I could not write. I had poor grammar, and it was hard to accept that that was something that I had to work on, especially, again, already having a career, already being a professional. All of us will have some type of educational background when you go into law school. And so what I had to do is, first of all, humble myself and say, okay, bottom line is you're not succeeding in this. Okay, so no matter what you think, you need to do something. So that's the first step, is a realization that something is going wrong. And then I just started becoming my professor's best friend. I just would go by her office and like, you want to read this for me? And, I put her eyes on my work so she could tell me what she saw and what I needed to correct. And then I just made it a personal goal, right? To start just building my vocabulary. Again, I'm a social worker in a public sector. We don't have to have just this immaculate vocabulary. We have to be real. And so being a law student was a big challenge for me. So I just started picking up words that I heard other people say, or in a dictionary. I mean, just in Black's, same thing as Artisha's Black's Law Dictionary. And so I did it for myself. And so when you identify that something is wrong, set a goal, create some tasks to fix that. And it's been almost 4 years for me. It may take some time, but you have to be consistent and determined to get it done.
I would echo Jessica. I remember my 1L year, our first major assignment was the email memo. And I was like, yeah, I can write an email because I was working before this and I'm an adult and I do great at emails. And I got a 68. That 68 literally still haunts me till this day. And I was so stressed and I was so frustrated by it. And I went to Professor Schultz and I just sat there and I talked with her and I was like, what is this? Like, what did I do wrong? What am I not understanding? What do I not comprehend? And the end of our semester project was our final objective memo, I think. And I ended up scoring a 95 on that. And so for me, I took a very big, like, congratulations to myself on that because I worked my tail off. Like, I was like, that 68 is not who I am. And it wasn't an accurate representation. Some of my classmates got really sad and just really down on themselves about it. But I was like, I'm the opposite. I'm like, nah, this is not appropriate. This is not how I perform. This is not who I am. So I went to, our professor used to come at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was there at 7 o'clock in the morning when she was there and saying, hey, can we go over this? Can we talk about this? What did I not understand about the statute? How can I do better? I went to academic success and worked with them on the essays for civil procedure because civil procedure essays just don't make any sense, but it does in the real world. And I will let you guys know that now. It does make more sense. And so I just took really pride in just making sure that I did all my essays, all my writings, and getting so many more eyes to look on it to make sure that that was something I felt comfortable in, regardless of what else I was doing. While I was doing the bar, I was like, these essays, I made up some law probably, but I think they got what I was saying. And we're just hoping for greatness.
Mine was legal writing was a challenge. Contracts was also a challenge. After our first quiz, I was very defeated, but I let that be my motivation. I started studying more, realizing that I had the answer in my outline, but I had not reviewed it. So little rules, I just forgot. I realized then that I wasn't studying efficiently for that course and kind of pivoted to what would help me memorize these rules and sub rules and little intricacies that my professor was looking for. And that first quiz showed that to us. It was kind of a test to see if we were truly grasping the material in the way that he wanted us to. So after the first assignments or exam, you kind of learn what they're looking for. But my other thing was balance. I am a very family oriented person. So missing family outings. Both of my cousins are very active in basketball at the collegiate level. So I can go to the family basketball games because I needed to be at the library studying, and realizing those things early on. And a little bit throughout the semester and second semester, I had to learn to say no, which was a big thing for me. I'm usually a yes, I can do this, yes, I can do this person. But I had to learn to step back, and this was something I wanted to do for myself. I'm attaining this degree, so I knew I had to say no to those things in order to succeed and get the grades I wanted to in law school. So that's a big part of the first year, is learning what you can and cannot do and finding that balance between school and your family life.
Tyler made me think of something. One of the difficulties I also had were social events, and you wouldn't know that now, right? But I have a family, like I have 3 children and a husband, and I didn't want to go to a DAYL or a Dallas bar social. I just wanted to be at home, right? Because the free time I had that where I wasn't studying, I just wanted to be at home watching a movie with them. But part of becoming a lawyer is the social aspect, and you have to get to know people, and you have to meet people, and you have to meet partners and associates and other students to build your network. So those first few times I had to trudge myself into an event or a panel were hard for me. And then I found my own way to do it in the times that were good for me. I, joined a DAYL committee and like, well, I'm gonna just join a committee and see where that goes. Yes, join the committee, Artisha is saying. Or I'm gonna just, go ahead and go to this DBA panel. I'm just gonna sit in the back and eat my lunch, and then of course you end up talking to 15 people when you're there. But you have to do things in spite of how you feel personally, and it'll be okay. You'll get into it. You'll get the hang of
it. To address James's question in the chat. So I have had those times where I just wanted to create a very pretty outline, and I just was thinking about the little most minute things like the colors and the way it was formatted and it was structured. Yes, that would give you a false sense of productivity. When you are going through your outlining and you're doing it, you need to make sure that I'm working with the criminal district attorney in Tarrant County. So what I'm thinking about is like a Fourth Amendment issue right now. If you don't understand the exceptions to warrantless searches, but you're just really focused on making sure that every little word is correct or every little color is correct on there, and you really can't wrap your mind around all those exceptions and understand when they arise, make sure that when you're doing those outlines, that's what you're focusing on. Like, do you understand those exceptions to the warrants and all of those things? You don't want to focus on, if you're looking at flashcards, but you're not really understanding the concept, you want to make sure you're getting that concept and you have your mind wrapped around it. That's hard for me to say because I love a pretty outline, and sometimes it's difficult, but now I just saved a template on Word. So then if I do want to change a color or I want things to be a certain way, it's automatically that way. And I don't have to focus on that. I can focus on really grasping and wrapping my mind around the material.
Yeah, it's weird. And it's not a blanket. It's not a blanket resolution. Like, I'm like Artisha, my outlines are colorful, right? Because for some reason, colors help me learn. But my business association outline has no colors, guys. I don't know why it wasn't translating well. I was wasting my time, and I was just like, I just need to learn about how to get this LLC off the ground, right? That was the important thing at the time. And it still bothers me that it has no colors, but I mean, I passed the class, I did good in class, So you have to do what is productive at the time. And when you get that, I guess, instinct or that inkling that this is a waste of my time, just flip it.
All right. So we're coming up at the end. So this will be the last question in the next few minutes. And I'm going to kind of bounce off what y'all were already talking about in this last question and combine it with another. Let's talk about kind of survival tips in 1L, but also bounce off what you all were talking about with balance. So surviving, balancing, and then if you have any other kind of last words for a 1L, and that'll be our closing question.
For surviving 1L first semester, because that is going to be the semester where you are the most stressed. Your family is so great and they're so sweet and we love them, but they are not in this bubble with you. They have no idea what it is you're truly doing at this time. And so you really need to form those relationships with your classmates. And it's going to be very easy for you to tell which ones you're going to get along with and who are your people and which ones you're not probably going to vibe with. And I'm just going to be very honest and transparent about that. Those people that you vibe with, lean on them, because no one's understanding outside of your law school what you're going through. Your professors get it, but they get it from 30 years ago. They don't understand it currently when you have other distractions or other things going on. Or like me, I'm a single woman in the house with just me and my plants. Sometimes I was in here and I'm just like looking at my plant like, hey, I hate this. Law school is not fun. This was not a fun time for me. But when I could lean on my friends and talk to them and understand I wasn't the only person who was confused or frustrated or feeling like they weren't worthy enough to be here, it was super great. I got really involved with networking. I am like DAYL's biggest advocate. Sherry's on the call. She can let you know. I stay, join a committee, do all those things. But during your first semester, I would say wait. Attend some of the events you can, like the luncheons, go to those, get you some good food, talk to a few people. in a reasonable time, because you do want to make sure you dedicate yourself to studying and making sure you're understanding the material and that you are grasping those things. And then second semester, when you, after winter break, you realize you passed, you've done great, then you can go to more things, you can get really involved with DAYL, you can join a committee, you can do things like that. But really lean on those people in your law school that you vibe with to understand you're not in this alone. It is very stressful. Everyone else is feeling the exact same way, but you're ultimately going to make it through and you're really going to do great and thrive. And if your school has a therapist, lean on the therapist.
I agree. Definitely find your people. I found my people within the first 2 to 3 weeks, and that was really beneficial to me. Also, I echo find the therapist. I did not go to our therapist until the spring semester. I will find myself not eating or not getting enough water. All of those things are very important. I was very stressed, more so at the end of first semester and really in second semester. But I was in the library reading and realized, hey, well, you have not eaten today. You really have not drank enough water. You're living off of Celsius and coffee, and that's not healthy. So realizing those things really early, finding that balance. Again, I will echo balance a lot, but also remember your health. Get outside, leave the library for a little bit. Our teacher made us go outside and get some sunlight some days. Do not put yourself in a room and throw away the key. Like, go outside, get some fresh air, go for a walk. Keep these things in your routine because it'll help your mental health overall. Because this is a very, very stressful time, and studying a lot does take a toll on your body as a whole. So definitely feed your brain and drink a lot of water.
Yeah, feed your brain and feed your spirit. We are already who we are before we decided to go to law school. And even though law school strips us of so much knowledge that we think we have, we still have the same spirits that we had when we came here. And I had to learn that I use my spiritual being to help me succeed in law school. And so at my core, for instance, I love service. Service is what drives me. It's something I value. Every one of us has values, right? And so since that is something I value, I've integrated that into my law school journey. And I can tell you, I've learned more about property, doing property classes for the community than I learned in class because I really wanted to learn it so I could help somebody. So use your values and your spiritual drives to help you be a better student. That's the balance that Taylor was talking about. And, Artisha was talking about, just be your authentic self.
So we're going to transition kind of Q&A from the audience. There's a few of y'all up there. So does anyone have any questions? We can either have you come up on the mic or you can drop in the chat. If I don't hear from anybody, I'm not going to do the whole Socratic thing, but I'll come up with more questions. Give you all a few seconds to think about your wonderful questions for these wonderful people.
Dill, I think we have some hands up too.
Sorry?
I think there are some hands up too, so you might.
Oh, I'm not even seeing that. Okay, I think Lindsay's hands up.
Hello,
And
so
Vita put in a question. Sorry,
I am also a UNT Dallas student, so I am so gracious for y'all's feedback today. Yes, yes. So whenever you're like, hey, I don't really want to name drop, I'm like, please name drop. Please tell me, who am I looking out for? What professor is going to really, really make me uncomfortable? I guess my big question is, I feel like in this last week that we've had orientation, they addressed outlines, but didn't say what should an outline look like? What should it mainly include? How is it supposed to help us? So I don't know if you guys have any tips that you would say, like, this is really what helped me create that outline to benefit me.
So one thing I'll be quick, Artisha. So one thing I decided to do after a while is, everybody when you go to school, they're like, oh, I got an outline. You can look at my outline. I got an outline for this. And I would say, okay, send me your outline. But what I've started to do is I would have like 3 outlines and then a publisher's outline. And I would piece it together to make it look how I want it to look. So my advice is don't just take an outline from a person or a publisher and copy it exactly. Use what you already do in life. What you did for undergrad or what you do for your personal organization for yourself. How do you organize your life already? Make that into your outline. But use other people's outlines so that you don't leave anything out. So you can look at other people's work so that you can help yourself not miss things, but don't make a replica of that.
Yeah, so they don't. I wonder who taught y'all's orientation this week. It's interesting. They don't tell you how you should outline. It's really like based upon you. So for me, like I said, I case brief everything. So every single class, Lindsay, that you are taking, I have every single case book outlined for that. Obviously the Supreme Court's made some changes, so they probably won't help you anymore, but they could give you a good overview of some information. So when I would do just like all my casebook outlines of the cases, I would take out the holding of those main cases. And then I would look at the syllabus and see, okay, so this week we're talking about diversity jurisdiction, but we were specifically focused on diversity of citizenship and like amount controversy. So I would weave in the cases or weave in information that applied to those things to get like my general overall rule about it, and then the little sub rules that you do have to address. And I would just break it down. I played basketball, so X's and O's and diagrams are everything for me. I love a good diagram. Taylor has seen me this past year I took bankruptcy. You need diagrams for bankruptcy to understand that. And so I would walk through, I'm on the dry erase board, just walking through each and every single thing and then translating that into my outline to make sure I understood it. It's really going to be dependent upon you and what works best. Like Dean Ronaldo Valencia used to be at UNT Dallas College of Law, but now he is at Capitol. And one of the big things he explained is like a student did really, really bad their first semester and they were working with him for the second semester on what worked best. This kid understood PowerPoint. So using PowerPoints for him in undergrad made him a top excellent student. And then so they incorporated that practice with him with doing PowerPoints over the material he was learning second semester. And he excelled and did really, really great. And then went up to graduate law school and used that same practice because for him, PowerPoints worked. So if you can figure out what worked best for you in your undergraduate career and so incorporate that with the material you're learning and going to academic success with Professor Hoke and others, you will be able to do really great because that's what they're going to focus on for you.
We have a few questions in the chat. We'll start with betas. So free supplements, where are they?
So at your law school, in your law library, they should have supplements, and I can only speak for UNT Dallas College of Law, that you can rent. And so now I think they extended it for like 7 days, but they have the Glandon's guides, the Q&As, the Emmanuel's outlines, they have flashcards, they have like one-sheeters for things. So you can check those out and you can use those. Also with the UNT, we had, our library had a little site and it went straight to West Academics, and you can use the free study guides with West Academics. So I could download that app on my laptop. I could favorite on West Academics which books I like the short and happy guides, and I could still pull those back up and use those. So look at your library for those resources because they will have everything on there, including like Key Online and some other stuff that could have some really great critical information. And then we also got Barbary books. So like the Barbary 1L Mastery course, we got that big, thick book, and you could look at that and review that too.
And some schools aren't as generous as ours, as UNC Dallas. They're not as giving. Some schools aren't as giving. So you may have to go to your career readiness or academic success office and ask them, like, what has the school paid for? You're going to maybe have to advocate for yourself, whereas we were given a lot of things. but you need to know what your school has paid for you to have access to and how you access. You may have to go to the library and ask, how do I access these things? But use your school as a resource because you're paying your university to get this education. And so they should have some resources for you there.
Also, older students, upperclassmen, they may have supplements for your courses that they're willing to pass down. I know I gave some Glennons away, but also some, and ask your classmates too. Some of them have PDF versions of the Glennons and different supplements. So use your school network of students as well, because you never know what they have. I have PDF versions of a few Glennons as well. So y'all can reach out to me and I'll be happy to email those to y'all as well.
I am tapped out for books. I gave all my books away. I think I asked Taylor, honestly, anything of mine that I previously had, I gave them all away. I didn't ask for any money because we are poor in law school, but I would say if you guys have any alumni networks, we have one on Facebook, some people will post that they need books and they'll give it for free. So those are Glennons, your Q&As, any other supplements, my outlines. Again, if students reach out to ask me for them, I will give them because it is a stressful time. And this material, if you don't come from a legal background or have any knowledge beforehand, it is very hard to wrap your mind around. And as much as I can give for free, because that was given to me, and also we're poor in law school, I want you guys to have those things as well. There was a question about if we were allowed to use our outlines and notes on exams. It depends on your professor. It really depends on your professor. I could let you know later which ones are more inclined and which ones are super less inclined. Professor Owsley, for one, you don't get anything besides your brain. That's my homie, so I know he's cool with me name dropping him, but it just really, really depends.
For the question,
another one. Sorry, go
ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to call out Emily's question. Ways to outline yourself, the resources to help find or the best way to outline for yourself.
I think I kind of answered that when I said getting all the materials together and seeing how everybody else did it and then deciding. The school will show you different ways. You could pick it up or you could not. But again, like we said earlier, once you figure out a way, stick with it until it just doesn't work anymore.
I would say, to piggyback off that, Emily, is a good way that I used was I would take the syllabus of the professor, because they're going to break it down in the table of contents for the book too. But your professors may move, they may start from page 1 to 20 and go to page 900 to 1000. But look at that syllabus and then I hate how professors format things. I just think I format better for everything. And that's just my own way of life. I would use the syllabus and then I would just fill it in week by week, what was in there. And then I would have, my con law syllabus my con law notes were 120 pages. So then when I went into the smaller, midterm, I had a pre-midterm one, which it was condensed down to 10 pages. And then I tried to condense it down even further. But it just really depends on you. But I think using the syllabus way and then inputting it in and trying to understand and break down the material so you can see what you're specifically talking about, because a lot of the questions that they're going to ask you guys during class is going to be, well, we're talking about the automobile exception. What does that relate to in this case? You will be able to see that way.
Same thing with the question about the notes and how you take notes. Everybody does it in a different way. I started off writing, I had notebooks, and then it took me a lot of time to translate that into outlines. So then I transitioned into taking notes just in a Word document, and then creating my outlines from my notes, because I could copy, paste, add whatever from what I was already typing. I have a friend who she still has 10 notebooks and she still does all of it in writing. She gets the same grades I do, but it just works well for her. I know another friend who he wrote his entire bar exam by hand. So you have to know how your brain works. It took me some time. Now, it was a transition to start doing it electronically because, you know, I'm a little older. And so we wrote in school, you know, in grade school, even when I got my bachelor's degree, we wrote things down in blue books and things of that nature. So you could do it either way. I like it electronically though, because it's easy to transition into an outline.
I personally write my notes. I am the person with the 10 notebooks, but I do transition it to a typed outline and then I print that out and write on it as well. That just helps me grasp the material better. I kind of write with my case briefs, write those out, and then I use a color pen to take notes in class. Some professors don't allow you to have technology, and a lot of my classmates are struggling right now, having to adjust to that as we get ready for constitutional law, because our professor said no laptops. So they're going to have to adjust to a writing style, a writing note taking style. But last year we were able to use laptops, so a lot of them relied on that. So it is going to be an adjustment. Personally, it works for me. I retain the information better. And as far as the structure of outlines, I didn't get to really touch on that. For each class is different. For Civ Pro, it was mainly diagrams and just the rules and how things flow. I didn't have like a structured outline like I did for contracts and torts. So each class, it can look different as long as you're grasping the material ultimately.
If your professor does not allow laptops, my just disclaimer for that, do your notes, outline them, print them off, bring it to class so you can have a physical copy in front of you. Technology is not the end all be all. I believe in just having my laptop and my iPad, but just do your notes, print it off right beforehand, have a pen, and then if you hear something new or they address something differently that you missed, write it on the side. Go home later, update that, and do it that way. There's room to work around that.
Thank you all. I'm going to hand it off back to Angie here. She's going to figure out our break room time, and she's got a link up. So take a look at that link and we'll get talking.
Hi, everybody. Y'all, I hope you guys paid attention to everything that these ladies said. And, you know, Adil, thank you so much for moderating the panel. All of you guys gave such great wisdom. I wish I would have had this when I was the 1L so that I wouldn't have been so freaked out all the time running around with my hair on fire. But, you know, I mean, that's just 1L year. So if you feel that way in a couple of weeks, don't feel like you're all by yourself. There's definitely a lot of people here that can commiserate with you. So we're going to go ahead and do the breakout rooms. And our next panel up is going to be about succeeding after law school. And our moderator will be Artichala Wise from our first panel. So Artichala, I'll go ahead and bring you up and then I'll bring up all the panelists. So all right, there's Artichala, and let me get our panelists. Okay, and then I just saw you, Javi, where'd you go? There you are. Let's see. Awesome, okay, there y'all are.
Hello, y'all. So Artichala Wise, you guys know I just recently finished with the bar exam about 3 weeks ago, recent grad. And then I'm going to allow the moderators to give a brief introduction of them, or the panelists to give a brief introductions of themselves.
Hey, I'm Audrey. I'm a commercial real estate attorney with Wick Phillips, dealing with all sorts of commercial real estate transactions.
Christine Schoss. I am an associate at Lewis Frisbury Biscard Smith, and I do healthcare litigation.
My name is Javi Nguyen, and I'm a commercial litigator at Frost Brown Todd. I'm also the chair of the Lawyers Promoting Diversity Committee at DAYL.
Perfect. And so all these students are currently 1Ls, and I'm going to phase these questions just to be like, when you were going through law school and as you were applying for your postgraduate opportunities, Was it better for you all to have diverse internships so you can get a better feel of the legal profession? And we can start with Ms. Chase.
Sure. For me, I always knew I wanted to do healthcare, so I didn't diversify. I kept everything in healthcare, like interning with hospitals or health and human services. I only interned or interviewed with law firms that even had a healthcare program. So it's a very narrow niche. But my previous career was in nursing, so I tried to leverage that as the, not only do I know the words and everything else, but I really wanted to show that I'm committed to healthcare. So for some people, if you don't know what you want to do, yes, diversify. But if you know what you want, just stick with it. Because sometimes I'll get emails from, law students and stuff like that, trying to get internships. I'll tell you, oh, we're interested in med mal or healthcare. And I'm looking through it and I'm like, you're in a criminal law organization. You know what I mean? Like, you clearly want to do criminal law. Like, you can stick to criminal law. It's fine. But it's harder to say I'm committed to this. I really want to do that when your resume shows otherwise.
Ms. Patel.
So my internships in law school were with the Office of Medical Hearings and Medicare Hearings and Appeals in DC. And then I also worked at a coastal land trust. So I went to school in North Carolina and I did my, internships, I guess, wherever I could. And my focus, I thought I wanted to be a tax attorney or a healthcare attorney. Obviously, that's not what happened. But that last internship really did kind of gear me toward a career in real estate law. And I mean, if you don't know what you want to do, it's fine. A lot of firms will try to expose their interns to like a variety of practice areas. And I think now a lot of law schools even have various groups and clubs and things that are kind of focused on the various practice areas. I know SMU, in particular, does have like a real estate club or real estate group. And our most recent intern this past summer, he was part of it. And when he came in, I mean, the work he was putting out was pretty good considering he was, a law student. And he, granted he's graduating December, but he put out some decent work. I was pretty impressed, as was everybody else in our team.
Ms. Nguyen.
So my answer is yes. But to kind of just expound on that. So I came into law school thinking I was going to do transactional work. I had no moot court, no mock trial experience. I was like, I never want to be in front of people. That sounds terrifying. Did my first internship doing fund formation for a private equity firm. I was bored out of my mind at this internship. And I just thought, you know what, like, I can't do this for the rest of my career. I got to figure out, what I wanted to do. For my 2L year, did internships with a firm split between transactional litigation and then also worked with the judge. And, realized that, certain litigators, if they can do it, I can do it. And so it got me onto a litigation path. So it is perfectly fine as a 1L to not know what you want to do, diversify your internships so that when you apply for jobs after law school, you can have a coherent theme and a coherent, explanation as to why you want that job, is my suggestion to law students now.
Thank you. And when you're even in your experience of looking at other incoming interns' resumes, what do you think are some of the best organizations for 1Ls to join? And when do you think they should start getting involved during their 1L year with like moot court or mock trial or law review?
I think the earlier the better, because then you have more exposure to that arena to kind of determine whether or not you want to pursue it or not. And, if it does get presented in an interview, you can say, well, I participated in this and I realized, this wasn't really my cup of tea. And I went to this other group or this other organization instead. So it helps move the conversation along.
Yeah, like Javi, I didn't know I was going to be a litigator. There was a lot of, they keep saying in law school, most things don't go to trial. I went to A&M, which is really big on ADR, and they force us to take ADR courses. Part of the core, they don't make you take, secured transactions, but they will make you take all these ADR courses. So I didn't know I was going to be a litigator. I didn't take moot court or mock trial, but I know the equity partner, when she does look at resumes, that's very important to her. She needs to see mock trial and stuff like that on there. That to her sets people apart. Law review is always great if you've got that. I wasn't on it, but that doesn't mean you can't publish. I did publish 3 things while in law school. I'm in journals and stuff like that. I was not on law review. So that's a good way to show like I can write, even though maybe I've not been on law review. I really care about this subject matter and other things too. So those always get asked about on my resume. And again, like I worked in law school. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I had children, so I wasn't going out and spending a lot of time networking, and I wasn't doing a lot of stuff outside of school besides creating my own health law society, which is still at A&M. I started that, but if you're passionate about it, just go for it. And if anything can set you apart, because remember, everyone's smart. Everyone's smart. There's not actually a lot of degree of difference between top 5% and bottom 25%. There really isn't, when it comes down to it. And again, everyone was smart. Everyone started off as a gifted kid who liked to read, so just show that, just go anything that can stand your way and set yourself apart. Something that says other than like interest that says travel. I see that like on every resume too, just something more interesting. Like, hey, I'm really into, I think one guy we asked about, because he was really into like cuts of meat or something like that. Apparently he was part of, his family was really into like ranching and stuff like that. That gets asked about, not your travel and yoga. So that's just me from my experience.
So the two panelists make good points, and I just kind of want to point out, because I know that the majority of you are 1Ls, and I just want to clarify the timeline of when we're saying to do these things. Your 1L fall semester year is the year for you to make good grades. Please study, please get to know your professors, please make friends with your classmates. That is the number one important thing to do as a 1L your fall semester. These law review organizations that we're talking about, this is 2L year items, and maybe spring semester 1L year if that's where you want to get started. But I just wanted to clarify that, this 1L fall semester year is, for you to get to know your classmates, get to know your professors, and to make friends, in your law school career. After that, join the organizations, figure out what you want to do. And so just kind of a caveat on the suggestions that have been made just now.
Good tips.
And I'll say that from going to UNT Dallas College of Law, they do give you like a resource fair. So they may provide that to other law schools so you can see what moot court teams are, or what mock trial is, what law review is, when you should expect to see that. And you also participate in a 1L like moot court competition. I know that's traditional with a lot of the other schools. And Ms. Chase, you mentioned ADR. Could you just explain what ADR means for the 1L?
Sure, alternative dispute resolution. So, mediation, arbitration, things like that.
Okay. And then what is your advice for anyone who is a non-traditional student? I know that you have mentioned that as well.
Well, my law school is very traditional. My law school is very big on you don't work. Most of my classmates didn't have kids. I think there were only 2 other moms in my section. They didn't make it to 2L. I'm not trying to mince or sugarcoat it. It was really rough on being a mom. I was not top 10%. I was not top 50%. But I'm still ended up at a big law firm. So there's not other things that aren't, you just have to accept where you're at. And sometimes it's not about you being against the other students, which is a very traditional law school thing, is you won because someone lost. Sometimes the race is just against yourself and just trying to stay in it and just finishing, because in the end, it's really about how well you can do. And if you understand the material, that's more important. Because again, everyone is smart. You made it through this way once you graduate, and everyone takes the same exam. And they will ask about your grades, like certain doors will close just because you went to a certain law school. Like I'll never be on this I'll never be on the US Supreme Court, not going to A&M, and that's okay. There are some doors that will close because you're not top 10%, and that's okay too. Just accept where you're at, and that's okay. Work with what you got. But also I would just be, and my other advice too, like if you've got a mom or you work or anything else, is don't be afraid to say no. And you don't owe people explanations. You got to have boundaries, and you need to let the people around you know that this is an all-consuming venture. And I'm sure for a lot of you guys might be the first lawyer or professional in your family. They don't understand it either. It's not like undergrad where, like you just know material and you just make a really, like everyone gets an A, everyone gets, extra credit and stuff like that too. If you have a traditional curve, the law school curve, which is, like 6 people get an A and everyone else just gets A- and stuff like that, then you're immediately knocked out. And again, it's hard if you're competing against people who know what they're doing, who don't have outside responsibilities outside of school. I mean, life's not fair, but that's not, I'm not trying to say that can ruin your opportunities going forward. I just also want you to know, like, just accept what you've got as it is now. That's being a non-traditional student this is what I've got, the time frame I have, and just do the best you can. I know that may not sound like super enlightening, but I needed that.
I would highlight that too, if that does come up as well, saying, look, I was involved in this law school program, plus I had all these external responsibilities and factors like work, family life, that you can highlight that, because honestly, I think that's a great achievement.
Ms. Nguyen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I have just kind of two things. One, it's a little unfortunate that Texas A&M doesn't have a program for working moms. So I went to the University of Texas in Austin. The law school definitely had a program for non-traditional students. It wasn't a formal program. Everyone was still a full-time student, but at UT, we definitely recognized that people were mothers at our law school. And so there was definitely a program in which, the law school mothers could meet and, kind of talk about their schedules, their day-to-day, ongoings of their lives, the struggles that they have that other full-time students didn't have. So if you are in need of that support, definitely ask your law school advisors and, pay it forward. If they don't have it, form one. Yeah, form one. So at DAYL, we didn't have a working moms group, which was very much needed in our legal community. And so Christine Leatherberry, who was a longtime DAYL member, she started a working moms group for Dallas lawyers to meet up and, to talk about the struggles, because it is a separate kind of struggle. I was a full-time student, went the traditional path. I didn't have the same struggles, but now as, I am trying to focus on being a mom, I do realize that there is a slew of other things that you have to deal with as a mom. And so, it is good to just go out there and say, I am a working mom student, and, talk to your classmates. You're not alone. I'm pretty sure you're not alone. And so definitely reach out to people and, kind of talk to them on, being a mother and being a full-time law student at that. There are always groups and people that are in the same boat as you. And that's my first suggestion. And then two, on just the non-traditional path, as we hire, we're starting to look at resumes, as we hire for summer associate jobs, we like people who have had careers before, and it actually helps you in law school in that you understand what it means to have a 9-to-5 job. So if you treat your law school like a 9-to-5 job, you will be ahead of, the students who treated law school as college 2.0 and had to have awakening. You're just like, no, I know how to work from 9 to 5, so I'm going to go to school from 9 to 5. So use that to your advantage as well. And, don't let it be a disadvantage in any way.
And one more thing, a lot of the law schools do have associations with the local bar associations, like they have affiliations with them. And if there isn't a program in place at your particular law school, you can reach out to these different special interest groups within the local bar association and use them to kind of help you get that formed. Because obviously it's already been done. And the DAYL Working Moms group has been great. The struggles that working moms face aren't really voiced, and just having an outlet is great benefit. And I would totally utilize all those opportunities in those groups if it is something that you aren't getting at your law school.
And we keep touching on the subject. So what are some of the associations or events that take place in Dallas that these 1L students can get a part of once the time comes for them?
Like there's the Dallas Asian American Bar Association, South Asian American Bar Association, Hispanic Bar Association. Like they all have student memberships, I believe. And law students should be encouraged to participate in those groups. They do have various like meetings, CLEs, that sort of thing. And it's an excellent opportunity just to kind of get your name out there and to get to meet people in the industry and to kind of meet people in the fields that you might be interested in, because some of those people are power players in the practice area. And it's good to have those people, you know, on your speed dial if you need to call them with a, like maybe just as a mentor purpose, right? Call them with like this is what I'm interested in. What do you recommend? What do you suggest? The earlier you start forming these relationships, the better it'll be for you after law school.
And she's right too, those organizations, they also offer scholarships. Like DABA gave me like a $3,500 scholarship while I was in law school. And I met my first like healthcare attorneys through DAYL. There was a healthcare attorney who was supposed to show up one day and he didn't show up, but they left a message and with DAYL saying, "Kate, can you please reach out to Christine? I want to meet her." And he's been a mentor ever since. And that was 1L when I met him. So you guys are all doing the right thing, which is spending your Saturday trying to listen to people and doing some research and meeting people too. So y'all are already on the right track.
And if there is mentorship programs, I would highly encourage you all to sign up for them. Obviously, first year of law school, your focus should be on school, like, you know, grade school, learning everything you can, but definitely participate in the mentor programs and understand that the mentor programs aren't designed to just connect you with a job. The mentor's purpose is to give you advice, guidance, be a sounding board for you if you do have questions or concerns about something. And I think, you know, a lot of people don't utilize their mentors. And I think a lot of my personal mentors don't realize they're my mentors. Like you kind of go out and reach out. If there's somebody in a field that you're interested in, find an attorney in that area, shoot them a message and say, "I'm a 1L, whatever, you know, at so-and-so law school. I'd be interested in learning more about your career path or trajectory. And if you have some time," and just open the door there and, you know, follow up with them every like 6 months or so.
Right. And she's right. Like you want your mentor connection to be genuine. For example, I got a runner-up, like first runner-up on some kind of, you know, like ABA thing. I said, "Yeah, you don't get a money prize, but we still like your thing and we want to publish it." So I asked my mentor, like, "Hey, do I let them do this?" He goes, "No, withdraw it. Submit that to a law review instead." And he was right. That was the first time I published anything, because if he didn't tell me that, if I didn't talk to someone who had been a lawyer for a long time, or just when you interview for your real job when you graduate, and you see who the panelists are, like, because you're going to probably be at that job a year or two. You want to know, like, is this a good fit? This way you can go through your LinkedIn and people that you may know, people that you trust at this point, because you've established relationships with them. "Hey, do you know anything about Sarah? Do you know anything about Nicole at this firm?" And then they'll tell you, you know, and sometimes that's all you have to go on is like, what's their reputation from other people? So
And a lot
absolutely.
of times those folks within the firms know of positions because they're not advertised. So knowing people in a variety of places in the area, you can just reach out and say, "I'm looking for a position in X, Y, and Z area." And they can say, "Well, my best friend is at so-and-so firm. They know that, you know, I know they're hiring. Let me put your resume there." Or at least point you in the right direction, because you never know who knows who or what until you actually just ask the question. But don't go into it expecting them to connect you immediately. Because again, the genuine connection is more important than like a expectation of "you owe me this."
Yeah, so I've been a mentor since, you know, graduating law school. I've always participated in the formal mentorship programs that the bar associations have, just because my mentor during law school was really great. She gave me a lot of her time, a lot of her energy to make sure that I succeeded in law school, and I always wanted to pay it forward. One advice that I have as a mentee: reach out to your mentors. Don't just wait for us to reach out to you. You know, if you see a lawyer that has the experience that you want, there is nothing more flattering than getting an email from a law student saying, "I want to be like you." There just really isn't. And so reach out to people. You know, I'm not saying that 100% of the time someone's going to reply back, but the people that do, they're going to want to invest time in you. And that's just, if that's what you want and that's what you're seeking, go out and do it. You know, an email doesn't take time. It's meeting up, forming that relationship, and then it, you know, blossoming to great things is, you know, what's great about the mentorship mentee program. So I definitely agree on, you know, seeking out mentors and helping you along your career.
And for those students who may be just nervous to go out and seek a mentor, DAYL and DWLA have a leadership class which students can apply for at the end of their first year or the next years that you can do, which has a mentorship program a part of it. So there's so many opportunities for you all to get involved and to get connections with people. I relentlessly hit up my mentors very consistently. I just texted one this morning like, hey, we need to get coffee. And I reached out post-bar like, hey, I did it and hopefully it was great. So getting out there and making sure you're keeping those connections is really important. Ladies, what do you have for 1Ls when they think that they should start reaching out to employers? Should they start doing it today or should they wait until the second semester of 1L year? Like, when do you think is going to be the most appropriate?
I think Javi kind of, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I really loved how she pointed out, like right now, you just have to focus on what's in front of you, which is 1L year. You're already in it, like it's going to get worse before it gets better, and just do your best you can at that, because that's where a lot of those opportunities are going to happen. Like, you know, whether or not you can even qualify to be on moot court, whether you can qualify to be on law review. So, but, you know, and I'm not trying to like speak for you, I'm so sorry, but I just really love how she stressed that, because she's absolutely right. But I believe that when you start reaching out, when you can start doing your internships, like, so at A&M, you weren't supposed to work at all 1L year. I worked first semester, I worked actually all of law school. You don't do that if you don't have to. I had children and a mortgage and daycare, so I had to. But second semester, I started working at an internship, and then that person got me in connection with another law firm who got me eventually my final job. But these were people I genuinely like had friendships with. You know, this happened organically, and it's lucky when you have a mentor that you can get along with and you can still talk to, you can become genuinely friends. So it can just happen organically. Don't try to make it like a box that you have to check, you know, but right now, like, that's your primary focus should be just doing the best you can, because again, like, whether it's fair or not, or right, or someone gets sick or stuff happens, you know, like, and you just get knocked down just, you know, 0.3% or whatever, like, it's very narrow again, that top 5 to top 10, because there are some firms that couldn't, because healthcare law is it's a niche thing, and usually only the very largest firms have it, and a lot of them will have grade requirements. There's a few that I couldn't even apply to because, you know, the little thing, like after you put in your name and your number and everything else, it goes, well, what rank would you go? And it wouldn't drop below 15%. I was still able to get interviews there because of the mentors, because of the people I met. I could still get in the interview because they'll just bypass it. It goes, hey, we'll just take it directly to our HR department. So don't right now just focus on the grades. The things you can fix, you know, is your knowledge. You know, that stuff that's almost like secondary. But that's just my experience. I'm not trying to speak for anyone else.
The schools usually have like a time frame too for 1Ls to start thinking about internship opportunities for the end of their 1L year. So if you are concerned, you know, reach out to your career services and talk to them about the possible timelines. I agree with that. This first year should just be focusing on school and grades, and the career services will let you know when it's time, but I don't think it'll be before the spring semester.
Yeah, so the only small caveat to that is there's newer 1L summer programs that are starting as like pipeline programs, and they have a slightly different deadline in that they kind of ask you to apply, I believe at the end of November, December. But for traditional most law firms, I mean, if you don't have grades yet, what are they really going to base their decision off of other than seeing your grades? And so, you know, unless it's like specialty, like pipeline programs for 1Ls, it's usually reach out in the spring semester. But if you want to go through, you know, a 1L pipeline program that's special to particular firms, I would definitely, you know, kind of research and look at that at the end of the fall semester.
Mm-hmm.
And so how much credence do you think that firms give to prospective students who are coming from higher ranked law schools compared to those law schools who are lower ranked or not ranked at all?
Well, we're interviewing for internships for next summer already. And honestly, our team is pretty unique in that they're not really looking at the law schools. I mean, I don't even think we've asked for grades or anything, but are you going to be a good fit for our group? Because, I mean, We're too busy to deal with drama, and just like most attorneys are, but so we're picky about who we're bringing in. It's like, what's your temperament? What's your personality? What's your experience like? Are you even interested in real estate? Because I've got a bunch of work, just need people to do it. So I think it's unique though. Most law firms aren't like that. So.
And do you think that law firms are starting to change that requirement? Like they're just trying to look for if you're going to be a good fit compared to if you go to a Harvard or a Yale or an SMU? Do you think that landscape is changing?
Well, I think it depends on the practice area. For real estate, we can't find enough real estate attorneys. So obviously the criteria is having to shift because, I mean, the people that are applying are in a way better position than the law firms are, because the law firms need people, but there's no people to get right now. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, attorneys are leaving, attorneys are coming in, and they definitely have a higher bargaining chip, especially if they have experience in that area. So if you are sure of what you want to do, try to figure out what you can add to your resume, like with organizations, clubs, extracurricular type things after 1L year, or even toward the second half of 1L year, to kind of show that this is what my path is and this is what I want to choose. And that'll help set you apart as well, that you already know kind of what you want to do. But yeah, I think the landscape is shifting because of, I think post-COVID, everything's shifted.
Ms. Chase or Ms. Nguyen, do you have any comments on those two questions?
Okay, so I do. I do, and it's hard. It's hard for me to, just say like, oh, employers don't care about what law school you go to nowadays. That's not entirely true in the entire legal landscape. There are definitely firms that are still that prestige is still a thing. And if I told you it wasn't a thing, then I would be bullshitting you. But so the way that I would view my career, and I usually view lawyers' career, we are a people profession. And that's why I emphasized making friends in your law school, because you don't know where your friends are going. I lateraled recently, and the reason why I got the job that I got was because I had my friends from law school. They didn't get me directly the job, but they were able to give me insight on the other places that I interviewed at and told me not to go there. Or, they gave me insight on what this particular firm did and whether it aligned with my goals. And so, whatever law school you go to, most everyone from your law school is going to graduate. They're going to pass a bar exam and they're going to become lawyers. The trajectory of their career, you have no idea. Just like the trajectory of your own career, you have no idea. So don't put too much credence on what school you go to. Put credence on getting to know your classmates and getting to know the other lawyers in your particular bar that you're in, or the city that you're in. And that is what's going to build your career. And then 10 years from now, I will say that, I couldn't care less who graduated from where. If they have the experience that I need, they're hired, but starting off, there is still a prestige factor, when you're just getting that first job from law school. But as your career progresses, it really starts to matter less and less.
And I'll just all her points are extremely salient. I just wanted to expand a little bit more on where you went to school. My school was not very old. A&M has their law school is fairly recent. They bought Wesleyan, and now there's only 2 schools in Texas that are even in the top 50, and that's UT and A&M. Fortunately, not a lot of the law firms know that. I've been in a law firm. They were straight up saying they weren't interested in people from A&M. They didn't want people from UNT, and it's like, but we outrank a whole bunch. They don't know that. They don't know that. They graduated law school 12 years ago, and to them, just SMU and Baylor and UT is what exists to them. But I had another interview at a firm. This one, I wouldn't even call it like big law. It's probably more medium. This place, and I was interviewing, across from me was someone like from Columbia, Notre Dame, the other one was Yale. All of them were on law review. They asked if A&M, is that some kind of night school? So I was like, really? Y'all don't even watch football? So, I mean, yeah, there is a prestige thing. There is, a lot of people try to tie that in to justify the salaries. Even at my place, before they even extended me an offer and I'd already been working there for a year, they had done research on my school and they said, well, you guys had the highest bar passage rate in Texas last semester. So they made it a point. They said it to me, like apart from the work I did. So to some people it does matter, but eventually your work will speak for itself and it doesn't matter at that point.
And to piggyback off of the comments about the connections, you're right. You don't know where your law school colleagues are going to end up. So you could be opposite them in an interview and they could be the one interviewing you at one point. And if you were not the best person to them in law school, they will remember that. So relationships are important. I came from out of state. So I went to, I'm from North Carolina. And so I went to law school in North Carolina thinking I was going to stay there. Life happened. And so then I ended up in Texas and I sat for the Texas bar after graduation and nobody had heard of my law school because it wasn't one of the top, top tier law schools in North Carolina or in the state or country or whatnot. And so it was hard finding a job because, in Dallas, SMU is pretty prominent. And at the time Wesleyan was there too. And so it was like, if you didn't go to one of those, you didn't really get a call back. And the reason I got my first law firm job was because one of the women in the real estate section is my husband's best friend's sister. And she passed my resume along. But if not for that, they wouldn't have called me back because everybody else there was like an SMU grad. So again, the relationships are important because you never know who is going to be a help or a hindrance to you, but you don't want to be in the position where you did something to cause that person to not want to help you. Because most people want to help unless there's a reason not to.
Yeah, people remember the way that you made them feel. And if you made them
Yes.
feel bad, they're really going to remember you.
And that
So,
continues throughout your career. Like attorneys will remember that, judges, clerks, like the law clerks at the courthouses and things. Like, do not piss those people off.
How do you think if one of these 1L students get into a dispute or situation with one of their classmates and they may have not handled it appropriately, how do you think they should go about rectifying that situation so in the future it possibly wouldn't be an issue if they were looking for a job or a connection?
I think a sincere apology goes a long way. Just address it. Don't let it fester and say, look, that wasn't the way I wanted to handle it. This is what I meant. This is, I sincerely apologize for the, whatever happened. Let's try to move on. Is there anything I can do to help move this along beyond this? And just be frank about it. I think a lot of times, hiding stuff or like avoiding it doesn't really help. And that goes on with your legal career too. Like if you make a mistake, own up to it. Don't lie about it or hide it, just own up to it, move on, learn from it. Don't do it again.
And don't make excuses either. Just own it.
They forget to tell you that kind of law school is high school 2.0 sometimes because it is a very small little dynamic. You want to make sure you keep those good relationships and figure out a solution to some of those.
I think it's middle school too. Well, these people, you're there like all day long for weeks and weeks. You're all under the same kind of stress. You're all in the exact same boat. Why not commiserate with them as opposed to trying to instead of making enemies or burning bridges? Because again, you never know where people are going to end up.
And a question that I've seen just speaking with someone else this week is that their appearance and having to know to dress for any a luncheon or I know dinner and dialogue just happened. What are some of those recommendations that you think that law students should have? And maybe some suggestions on where to find some affordable, appropriate clothing.
I like the outlet malls. I love Black and White outlet. I've got clothes on eBay. I've gotten clothes on Facebook Marketplace. Banana Republic outlet. I must emphasize outlet. And also like just buy neutral color. I feel like with you have neutral color clothing, not hot pink per se. I wouldn't wear this to court. But neutral clothing like can go a long way. Like if you have like your whites, gray, black, and tan, because I think a man can get away with having just all black suits, but I've heard from women that they will have 6 or 7 black suits, and one woman told me she was pulled aside, not my firm, but HR, saying, hey, we're concerned about your hygiene. And she was like, what? Because women, they expect you to change your clothes more often than a man. A man can like Steve Jobs can wear the same stuff every day. No one will say anything to him, but a woman just can't get away with that.
Which is unfortunate. Like, I really am an advocate of the capsule wardrobe, where you have like a few pairs of pants and shirts and things just kind of mix and match, and it's like still 20 to 30 outfits. But I mean, finding classic styles and silhouettes, like if you find a good pair of slacks on sale, get them, especially if they're like a nice trouser, or like don't get like the paper bag waist ones, because obviously those aren't going to be in a couple of years and it'll be obvious. But like a trouser pant, that's never really going to go out of style. Like a basic black suit, navy suit, not going to go out of style. Like a nice pump, not going to go out of style. So pick classic things that'll last. And obviously, if you can, spend money on those pieces, because they will last longer if you do spend money on some quality. And those outlets are great sources. I mean, Ann Taylor has sales all the time. Check that place out. I mean, it's all over. Just keep an eye out. I mean, Macy's is having they have a sale every other day, but Macy's is a good choice too.
So yeah, as a law student, I will say a black suit and a navy suit will last you through OCI and, until that first paycheck, and then to where you can buy other suits.
Black heels, black
yeah, it doesn't have to be an expensive suit. Don't start off at Nordstrom's and get tailored, but it just has to be somewhat fitted. And really what's important, especially in an interview stage, is, come clean, come polished, as long as you look like as long as you're in a suit and you look like you're ready.
Put in effort.
Yeah. And then we're going to move on to your resume and your experience and what you say to us. I care about your appearance, to a certain extent, but just know that, we're not here to look at what designers you have as you interview. It's literally just come in a suit that looks normal, and then appear, that you've cleaned and showered before meeting us on an interview, I think is the important thing.
And it kind of depends on your practice area too. Like I never wear suits ever. I mean, I don't go to court. I barely meet my clients in person. Like, it's just business cash every day. But if you are going into like a litigation type field, that's going to be more, you're going to need to wear a suit because you go to court. So that's another thing. I mean, definitely suits for interviews. If you're doing like one of those CLE programs in the evening, I would err on the side of overdress versus underdress. Like, definitely no jeans or shorts or anything like that, or flip-flops, but just be cognizant of professionality, like business casual at the very least.
Also, watch your nails. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just watch your nails. I know long nails are in right now.
Yeah.
Because even though it won't impede your typing for a lot of people, if your interviewers are men, they're just going to think she can't type. You know what I mean? So that's why mine are always like cut really short. Like when I was a nurse, they're still cut short because they're going to think, right? Even though it really doesn't impede my typing if I grew them out long. You just want to give out the impression that anything, like, because they might look for anything at this point to separate you from anyone else. So don't let it be your fingernails.
Yeah, maybe don't wear low cut shirts and stuff either. Like, too obvious.
Yeah, and then just kind of to piggyback on that, I'm in litigation. We try to get away from suits as much as we can when we start practicing as well. It's only when I'm in front of a judge or in front of an arbitrator is when I still suit up. So, but I get for law school time, you're worried about the suit for your interviews, but you really just need 2 staple suits to get you through the interviews. And then just dress how the other people in your office dress. Wear a suit the first day, and then if everyone's in business casual, there's no reason why you can't be in business casual.
I had the opportunity to clerk with the 5th District Court of Appeals my last year, and they emphasized in our email the first day saying, we are business casual. You do not have to come in a full suit. Me and the other clerk were still nervous, so we did come in a full suit. And then we learned why they don't have a full suit, because walking around that building is stressful and it's tired, and then you get hot under a nice blazer. So if you guys don't understand or know, reach out and ask, like, just see what the first day appearance should look like, or what you should be prepared to dress for. And a big thing with 1Ls are trying to learn their balance for law school. So how did you all balance your outside relationships with law and going through law school?
To dig back, it's been a while.
So for me, I think the best way I, can help is law school is a job. It is not college 2.0. It is a job. And you can treat it like a 9 to 5. So go to your classes, prepare to for your classes, take a lunch, don't skip lunch. Yeah. And when you're not in class and it's in the 9 to 5 time, study, read your cases for the next day. And then at 5 o'clock or 5:30, you can clock out, spend the time that you need with your family and friends, and then, rinse and repeat. And then, everyone knows when your law school finals are way ahead of time, and for those week and a half, 2 weeks, tell your family and friends, I am unavailable. I have to pass. And and then same goes when it comes to bar exam time. That's just 2 months of blocking your time out. But it doesn't, if you treat it as a job with a set schedule, there's no reason you can't have a life outside of law school. With your family and friends. It doesn't have to be life consuming. You don't have to, pull all-nighters. And I know that you're going to have a classmate that's just going to be like, I study till 2 a.m. every day. And, it's great. No, there's no reason for that. Just treat it as a job, with a set time, and then spend it with your family and friends the way that you want to spend it, is how I would answer that.
I would recommend sleeping.
Yeah.
Forget the family and friends, just sleep when you can, because it's draining. I told my family and friends, like, look, this is more intense than anything I've ever done before. And granted, I was the first one in my family to go to college here in the States, much less go to law school. And so they just didn't understand. And so once I set the expectation, like, I am not available, I will let you know if I can, but don't expect me to call you every day to chit chat or whatnot. Focus on this. And if you set the expectation with them, then they're not going to get their feelings hurt. Then you don't have to deal with that other drama.
And sorry, I'm not trying to like copy what Javi was saying, but she's absolutely right. Like, you need to have school time and family time and personal time, because one of my mistakes, I know I made a lot of mistakes and I don't mind sharing all of them, like 1L, I started with an infant and I started with a preschooler. So, and I wasn't married my first year. I had just gotten divorced. I know it's TMI. I'm just trying to say, like, it was really all on me, right? So I thought every spare moment I had, I studied. I'm taking my kid to piano lessons. I'm reading flashcards. Like, whenever I'm driving anywhere, it's always the flashcards. I brought flashcards with me to work. I didn't sleep until 2 because my son still didn't sleep the night, not until 2 all year. He wouldn't sleep. So I'm like, well, might as well just keep studying, because he's just going to wake up anyway. And that was a mistake. It was an absolute mistake, because I was always on. I was never off. I never took the time to process what I learned. I let it take over my life, and I shouldn't have. And I didn't have the grades to reflect that. So first semester I did kind of okay. So I was like, what? That's what trying. So I'm just going to take on more hours. I'm doing okay. I'm in the middle of the pack. Second semester, that's when it's like, I think I was like 0.13 above dismissal at the end of 1L year, just because I didn't have that balance. I had to get help at that point. I was actively going to drop out of law school and just go back to, why did I do this? I was already making 6 figures. I don't need this. I'll just go back. Why do this to myself? But my now husband's like, finish it. You started this. You have to finish it. So once I got help, once I started sleeping, once I started saying no to things, and once my son started sleeping too, I made Dean's List and I came back. But the first semester 2L year. So I was able to turn all around. And part of that was just the balance. I did not have balance, and you can't do everything. You just really can't. Just take off the hats. Like, you know, like watch my kid do the piano practice, like live in the moment. Like, I'm still a person. I'm still whatever you are. Like, this is my moment right now. Just same thing with bar prep. You got bar prep, then you've got gym time, you've got you time, family time, friend time. You know, like you don't keep trying to switch your hats or be everything at once. You just can't do it. Not well.
And as a person, sorry, you can go, Ms. Nguyen.
Oh, just real quick, and just to expound on that, in law school, a lot of organizations want you. They want members, and do not join all of them. Please do not join all of them. Pick the ones that you have interest in, you want to do, whether your friend's in it or you have an interest in it. It is okay to say no. And I think that's what a lot of is kind of the downfall of some law students, is they don't think they can say, you can say no. And later in your career, you definitely have to say no. So learn to say no now to just things that if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. No one's forcing you to do it, and don't feel compelled that you have to do it.
That's excellent advice, because you're right. The art of saying no, I mean, it is an art. Like a lot of new attorneys, they don't know how to say no, or they get, that's what leads to burnout, not knowing how to say no. Because when you're saying yes to something at work, you're saying no to something else, just you don't realize it. And so be intentional about your time, because your time is available, you know, precious, especially in law school, because you need to be focusing on school. And then obviously there needs to be some family time, but set the expectation, like I have this focus and whatever's left over here will be, you know, up to you, but set the schedule and stick with that schedule, because that'll be one less thing for you to worry about. Like, what's my Tuesday going to look like? Oh, doing law school from 9 to 5, and then I'll have an hour to, you know, work out, hour for dinner, get some rest. And if you change it up too much, it gets to be too much of a hassle and a burden. You don't need that.
And as a person who just spent their 2 months in this nice little hole of my apartment studying for the bar exam, having a schedule and making sure that you have your, like, I worked out in the morning and I had certain times, like at noon, I took a walk to get out. That is important, and that's something that can translate even when you're going into your law school career. But at this time, we will open it up for any questions. You guys don't have to turn your cameras on, but if you want to, we love to see a smiling face. And anything that you guys, you can put in the chat, or you can just raise your hand. Until we see some, is there any last bit of tidbit of information that any of you ladies would have that you would give to them that you wish you would have known prior to law school or during your 1L year?
Well, this is temporary. It seems like it's going to be never ending, but it will go by pretty fast. And then you'll be where we are sitting here thinking, oh my God, I don't remember first year other than it was crazy. You block it all out because you just have so many obligations and expectations and things that just focus on getting through the first year, and then it'll get better.
And I saw it through the first session and people were talking about their writing. Writing wasn't a problem for me because when I went through grad school, like scientific writing is very different. It has to be very clean and concise. It's not floral like, you know, people who were literary majors, like they can write really fancy and like Supreme Court opinions. I was very clean and they really liked it. And usually that was always my saving grace was the LRAW, because I can do that. I can write. So I got that from grad school. So if you guys have as if in your infinite spare time, you get Strunk and White. It's the name of the book. It's very short. It will teach you everything the law school meant to teach you about how to write cleanly, concisely, and clearly. It's such a small investment, but I read that book when I went through grad school in 2011, and I still use all that stuff there in daily life and writing.
For me, it's, and I know students are asking questions in the chat and we can go back to those in a bit. But for me, I know that law students really are afraid of looking stupid. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's instilled in law students, but it is. if you don't understand something, ask the question, because in my legal career, like as you practice as an attorney, you will not know anything and you need to ask questions. And so don't pour through 200 pages of text to figure out what the heck the professor said, because you have no idea. And then if you had just asked him, he would have said, oh, it was a footnote on page 5. Like, just don't be afraid to ask questions and, look like you don't know what you're doing, because guess what? No one in law school knows what they're doing. So just ask the questions that you need to ask. I see that there are questions in the chat. Heather Jones just asked how we can join DAYL as a student. Angie just posted the link for her to join or renew. I think it's a discounted rate for law students.
It's $50 for their entire 3 years.
Okay.
I think that's a good investment.
Yeah.
Happy hour one day, do that.
Yeah, and then James just asked, what tips do you have on network/contact maintenance for people you've connected with?
My tip for that is find them on LinkedIn, and then you'll have 2 points of contact from LinkedIn, their work anniversary and their birthday. Reach out for at least those 2. And then if they post something, if they've posted an achievement, right now, all the best lawyers in America results have come out. So a lot of law firms and attorneys are posting like, I've been elected best lawyer in America, but 40 under 40 or whatever. Reach out during those and say, hey, I saw you won this. Congratulations. Let's get coffee. Like, it's a good segue. But LinkedIn, I think, is good because it announces work anniversaries and it announces birthdays. And if you follow those folks, you'll see when they post something. If it's like an article or personal achievement, reach out and just say congratulations or something. So that'll be
follow their law firm.
Yeah, follow their law firm.
On LinkedIn.
And then you can look at their connections too to see if there's other connections you want to maybe pursue.
I just wanted to chime in on this particular thing because networking was super, super important to me. I think I kept a master spreadsheet. Make sure it's cloud-based. Use something like Google Docs or Airtable or whatever you want to use, but make sure it's cloud-based so you can access it when you're on the go on your phone. And keep like a master spreadsheet of all the attorneys that you're meeting, because you'll be amazed if you start in your first year how many people you know by the end. And every quarter, I would literally email everyone on my list and just be like, hey, I'm still in law school. These are all the great things I'm doing. If you have any tips or advice for me, send it my way. If you've heard of any opportunities, send it my way. And yeah, 9 out of 10 times, like, they might ignore you, but you'd be amazed, like, after getting my emails for like all 3 years, how many people would come out of the woodwork like in the last year and be like, hey, I have a job. And all these different things will come to you. But I think it is really important to sort of keep up that contact on a regular basis. So yeah, like what Madhvi said, just like emailing them once a year to wish them happy birthday or something like that is good. I think it's even better if you can email them and give them more updates about yourself so they can see how you're progressing and kind of root for you along the way, even if it's silent, But I think it's really important to just keep up that contact, because if you meet me as a 1L and then I don't hear from you again until you're a 3L looking for a job, I have no idea what you've been up to this whole time. Like, I might not remember you. So, just really try to keep in contact often. And on that spreadsheet, I even had a column for like how strong my relationship was with these people. If I felt like this was somebody I could trust and I could ask questions often, and I felt like they were a good mentor, I kind of emailed those people more often, and so you might want to think about prioritizing your time, because you don't have a lot of time in law school, right, to email all these people. So just try to think of who are your core people that you want to keep in touch with very often. Maybe send them an email once a quarter, once a semester. And then for everybody else that is just kind of, you're within your network, but not super close to you, maybe once a year, update them. But just try to keep up that regular contact. So just my advice.
If you don't have LinkedIn Premium, they'll sometimes give you a free little subscription. I just finished mine. And that opens up your world of connections to so much. You can do InMail and they give you like 15 free ones if that person's real connected on LinkedIn and you have to send like a little message. I love it. Anytime that I refuse to pay for it because law school and post bar, we don't have anything, but use it. And it's such a great resource to have. And you can look even too, if you're applying for internships or jobs, you can see like how you compare to other people. And I thought it was super great.
And when you get those business cards at the different networking events or CLEs, I still have all of them. And every now and then I'll go through and be like, I just saw this like, again, LinkedIn announces their achievements and things. So you can go back, find the business card and say, hey, I just saw that you won this. Let's do this. And it kind of spearheads that connection. So it doesn't come off as like out of the woodworks if you're not doing those quarterly or, semester emails, and it'll help get the conversation going, especially if it's somebody you only saw once, you don't really have that kind of a relationship with just yet. So it'll help form it.
I kept all the business cards too. I have a little book where I'd keep them in. You get it at Dice for like $1.50, and on the back I would write stuff about the people. Like their 1-year-old kid, their kid turns 1 in April. Their kid's name is Polly. You know what I mean? Just little stuff like that. So it's not like, they're like, hey, just want, so that you can remember. You can pick up from where your conversation left off. And people love talking about themselves. So if you can talk about them,
like if you bring up something you talked about, that's what I found helps with the connection. Like if somebody, like half the time I pass out my business cards to like law students or young attorneys and I never hear from them again. And it's like, that's fine. It happens a lot. I think I did it a lot also because I didn't understand the whole networking piece of it, which is really just forming the relationships. And if you respond to them and say, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you last night at so-and-so event. It was nice to hear about this particular thing you said to me. It helps them connect the dots with, oh yeah, we did talk about that and we met here. So they know exactly where they met you and they can remember the conversation you had with them. And so that helps segue that conversation into like more of a natural, organic relationship as opposed to, good to see you, let's talk.
Yeah, and if you're keeping like a spreadsheet or something electronic, you can actually, I had a link for like my notes. Like I would take notes on Google Docs and then put that link into my spreadsheet so that I could like quickly refer back. Like, what was the last thing I talked to this person about? Yeah. Like, and as a law student, like when you go to these events or if you're meeting somebody one-on-one, like always take notes. I know it might feel a little awkward, but you're not going to remember what you said to them in like a month. So like always bring a notepad, something, pen and paper, take notes on your phone, whatever you need to do, and just mention it. Like if it feels awkward, just say, hey, I'm just going to take some notes during our meeting because I'm sure you're going to give me a lot of wisdom and I just want to make sure I hold on to it. And that'll take away any awkwardness.
But in your car right afterwards,
Yeah.
I brought it, but I didn't do it.
You need to do, but I think if you do keep track of it in one master document, it does help you kind of like refer back quickly whenever you're in these situations. So, I know Lindsay has her hand raised. So, Lindsay, do you have a question?
I do. So I think something that I am like super terrified about, and I'm sure everybody is failing. So whether I'm not doing well in my first semester of law school, I failed to get the internship that I really wanted. I failed to get the job that I applied for that really, I think, fit me. How did you guys deal with that feeling of failure? Because I know at some point, maybe you've experienced it at least once that you felt like I didn't meet the expectations I set for myself.
Yeah, sometimes when you don't get a job or internship, it's a gift. You know what I mean? Like you gave them your best, they looked at you and they decided for whatever reason, X, Y, and Z, you were not a fit. They did you a gift. You don't want to go anywhere where they don't want you, like just starting off, So, and I'll let other people weigh in, but just starting off, like I don't take that personally. Sometimes it's a business decision. Sometimes they found someone's niece instead. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's not always you.
No, I think that's excellent advice. So the firm I'm at right now, I actually interviewed there back in 2015 and they turned me down, obviously, since I had to interview again this year. But this year they gave me an offer within 24 hours of me meeting with them. And they were actively interested in me. But because they said no, I got that experience they thought I was lacking. And in that 5 years, I showed them, look, I've got what you need now. And then they came back. But again, if I hadn't pursued it or, looked at what they were looking for and realized, oh, it's not me. Obviously it was me because I didn't have the right experience to go into that particular team at that time. but you have to be cognizant about, well, what do I want? What do they want? How do I get, if you still want to go to that position, try to see what they were looking for that you don't have, and you can help, rectify that.
Is
But
it
again,
unprofessional to ask for clarification, like, hey, I didn't get the job this time, or I didn't get the internship? Can you give me some feedback? Why is that unprofessional, or is that
No, you can ask.
not normal
no,
to ask?
ask.
You could ask.
Always ask.
Yeah, always ask, because it could be something that you can control, or it could be something you can't control. Like, I mean, I know a lot of positions I've applied for in the past. The reason I didn't get the job was because I didn't go to the right law school. And they're like, their whole position was, we don't hire people from that law school. Well, can't change that.
But
So
sometimes
obviously
it's
that was,
also something that they missed. Like maybe it's
Yeah.
something, they actually wanted somebody who was on law review and you're like, actually, I was on law review and somehow you missed that in my resume or in my interview. I think it is important to ask for that feedback. Yeah, absolutely.
But again, I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And, if you're cognizant about what your end goal is and how to get there and take active steps to get there, it'll all work out the way you want it to.
I know we still have some hands up and we need to start the breakout room soon so that you guys have time to talk to everybody. But we'll have just a couple minutes, when we come back after the breakout room. So if you want to ask more questions, then feel free, or you can ask your questions in the breakout rooms. I just want to make sure we get to them so that everybody has an opportunity to chat with folks. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I know that was super short, so sorry. You probably got cut off in your conversations, but definitely connect with all these wonderful speakers after this event. I think they have so much wisdom to share. So thank you so much to all the students who participated today. We really, really enjoyed meeting you. We hope that you will get involved in DAYL. In case you missed how to join, you can go to dayl.org and go to our memberships page. It's $25 for 1 year or $50 for all 3 years that you're in school. I think it's a great investment. So, please join. And this event is hosted by the Lawyers Promoting Diversity Committee. We absolutely would love to have you join our committee as a law student. Please, if you join DAYL, look into us. You can get to speak on panels like this next year. So please look into it. And it was really nice meeting everyone. I would like to encourage the speakers to put their LinkedIn links in the chat box if people want to connect with you. And same for the students, if you want to drop your LinkedIn links as well, folks can connect with you. And we hope that you will attend more DAYL events in the future. And we wish you lots of luck in your law school career. We know that you will be an asset to our profession. So stick it out and you'll survive, I promise. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and feel free to reach out to your speakers as well. And we've really enjoyed hosting you all today. So I'm going to give you the rest of your Saturday back, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you so much, speakers. Bye.